This episode, we're adding to the Industry Icon series. You're going to want to meet this lady. Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by ICT installers, project managers, estimators, even customers. We are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms like Apple or Stitcher, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? Those simple little steps helps us take on the algorithm, which helps us educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of more people in the ICT industry. Thursday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? You know I do a live stream, right? At 6 p.m. Thursday Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, everywhere. TikTok, everywhere. Sometimes I do QAs. Sometimes I do a regular show. For example, last Thursday, I just did 7 habits of successful project managers. Next week's going to be a QA one, though. So make sure you join those. And if you Chuck, I can't get, I'm driving home at 6 p.m. I'm going to get to an accident. Gotcha. I gotcha. They're recorded, and you can find them on letstalkcabling.com. So there you go. I realized that I'd gotten behind in posting them there. So last night I up-posted all of them. So they're all there now, right? And finally, while this show is free and will always remain free, if you would like to help support this show, would you mind clicking on this QR code right there? That QR code, you can buy me a cup of coffee. You can schedule a 15-minute one-on-one call with me, after hours, of course. Or you can just, send a tip. The show is always free and will always remain free, but it does cost money to run this show. So you're really in for a treat on today's show. I've got somebody really special joining us. She is a pro when it comes to marketing and running worldwide projects and actually making an impact. And not just that, this particular guest has an amazing knack for creating training programs that's not only to inform, but also to engage. I mean, if you're looking to amp up your partner and your customer relations, she is the person you're going to want to listen to. She sets apart and makes an industry icon. She is incredibly passionate about equipping both customers and internal team members with the resources they're going to need to absolutely smash their business goals. Trust me, you're going to want to meet this. As a matter of fact, because of this interview, we're going to collaborate and do a show on vision boards. So make sure that you pay attention. So welcome to the show, Penny Downey. How you doing?
Thank you, Chuck. I'm doing well. Happy Friday.
Yes, glad to have you on the show. We've known each other for, 2 years now, 3 years now?
Yes.
And I figured it's about time to get you on the show.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
So for those who may not know who you are, could you just give us just a short intro and background to who you are?
Absolutely. I am currently working with Eaton Corporation. My current role is in channel marketing, working with our datacom and electrical distributors, agents, contractors, and all things data and communication. So definitely, immersed in the ICT industry. And I am going to be transitioning to a new role in the middle of September. I'm going to be moving into product management for our wiring devices division. So I'm super excited about that. Working with folks that need some new products from Eaton. But my background has been in ICT, Chuck. As you know, I've worked with, starting in early 2000s, working with several organizations where I was very fortunate and able to learn a lot about this industry and, working with folks to help with communications and technologies that are coming on board, fiber broadband, back in the day, fiber optic splice closures, splitters, all those wonderful things, helping market those, price those. I held roles in sales administration, pricing, and contracts, working with a lot of electrical and telecommunications companies, managing contracts and bids and all those sorts of things. And that's kind of how I came into the industry in the early 2000s, working with those organizations. And around 2018, my job was eliminated. A division of the company I was working for got bought out by another company. They went through several rounds of layoffs, and After about the fifth round, my number came up, and that's kind of how I came to be a part of Eaton Corporation. So it was it was kind of a transition for me, but still working with a lot of the same folks, the same distributors, a lot of the same contractors, and people in the industry. So it was a great fit for me. And being in this role for 5 years, I've learned an extremely amount of new things. Everything in our industry is changing hand over fist, new technologies, new things going on all the time. So it's been a wonderful experience and something I'm looking forward to for the next 15 or 20 years.
Very cool. So before we get into the heart of all the tough questions, let me throw you a softball one to get you warmed up for the audience a little bit. If you could have a cup of coffee with any historical figure, business, public, whatever, who would you choose and why?
Well, I thought about that. It's interesting. There's a couple people that come to mind. Susan B. Anthony is probably the one I'll go with because she really led the charge in her era to help change the world for women. She saw a need and she rallied her troops, and she really went after an opportunity to help women in this country. And I think that's a wonderful feat. It's an astounding accomplishment for her and the people that she worked with. And she really drew attention to the things in the world that were not equitable for women, and really tried to make a difference. So I would definitely love to have a cup of coffee with Susan B. Anthony and pick her brain over all the things that happened in her lifetime and how things have changed.
Very cool. Very cool. So you know that this is a male-dominated industry, the ICT industry, the cabling industry. So I want to talk a little bit about breaking barriers, right? What challenges do you face being a woman in this industry?
So there's a lot of challenges. A lot of times, either working on a project or in a meeting, I'm probably the only woman in that room or sitting at that table. It's interesting because I have everyone brings their own background, experiences, and perspectives, and I certainly want to do that. And I think it's unfortunate that women aren't afforded and offered a chance to be a part of more projects and more teams that can, bring a diverse group of experiences to a project or to a leadership team. I think it's important that we, have underrepresented people at the table. We need to have more women at the table so that, every perspective and every person's background is really brought forward. And I think it would enrich a lot of our projects and make our team stronger.
So I agree with you 100% because, if you fill a room with a bunch of people who look alike, you pick the color, you pick the sex, the ethnicity, they're all going to have roughly come from the same point of view. And we're only as good as the sum of all of our parts. So if you can't ride a bicycle if all you have is a bunch of front wheels, right? So, I think you're right there. And and our industry's tough about having this whole glass ceiling thing. And you've actually broken two of them actually. One of them is having the college degree. That's one of them. And then the other one is again kind of the whole male-dominated thing. So there's got to be somebody who has motivated you to get through that glass. What role models or mentors have you had to help you kind of get to where you are today?
I've had three that really come to mind. You're right. I was the first person in my family, my general immediate family, to get a 4-year college degree. And my mom was really the first role model from an early age. She was a career woman. She worked outside of the home, and she pretty much showed me that you don't necessarily have to be perfect all the time, but you can have a career and you can have a family. And I saw that experience in her, and that really drove me to want to do more and want to have both. And my mother-in-law, Beverly, she had an extremely strong work ethic, and she took a lot of pride in her work. She was very driven and a highly analytical woman in a male-dominated pharmaceutical field. So she showed me in many ways how you could become a strong woman leader. And then back when I first transitioned into an ICT organization, I had a mentor and a supervisor who really taught me how to look at business from an internal and an external lens. Make sure you know who your audience is before you communicate and when you communicate, and understand what they're looking for and what they need to be able to do their job. And she was phenomenal at that. She was just a wonderful mentor to me, and I still call her to this day.
Yeah, cherish that while you still have that opportunity, because there's a lot of people that don't have that anymore. our industry's really, it's getting better about not being biased. I mean, there's still some work to do in the industry, but we're getting better at it. The biggest problem I see we have now is an unconscious bias, meaning somebody has a bias that it comes from they don't realize that they're being biased, right? For example, they might give somebody a female tech on a crew an easier job because for whatever reason you pick it, chivalry, or they don't think they're strong enough or smart, whatever. So there's this whole unconscious bias, right? What advice would you give somebody who comes across that unconscious bias? How should they handle that?
Well, I think the first thing they need to do is speak up and let people around them, their supervisors, teammates, peers, whoever it might be, know that they're ready and highly capable to take on whatever project that comes their way. Ask for more. A lot of times we get complacent in our jobs, and we're willing to do the things that we do day in and day out, but maybe we're not ready to be challenged, or if we are, we don't ask for that. So always speak up and ask. And biases are a part of who we are, our background and our experiences. Everybody has unconscious bias. So I think it's just recognizing that and then taking steps to control that bias when you do recognize it, right? To do the right thing all the time and to make sure everyone's included.
No, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you can't be a human being and be alive and not have some sort of bias intertwined in you, because that's kind of got us to where we are today. I mean, we realize that, that big furry animal with the big claws is dangerous, so I might want to stay away from it. So bias can be a good thing, but it's kind of intertwined with it. I don't think we'll ever get rid of it, but the key is realize when there's an unproductive one, or one that's not, that doesn't really apply anymore. That's the key, I think, in our industry, right?
That's exactly right. And, we're used to being around people like ourselves. But say perhaps the next time, you're going to go out as a team or as a group, make sure you include a lot of people. Don't just go out for, Drive Shack or Top Golf with the fellas. Always include more people. Get, your entire team, or maybe, a good subset of people, so that you can all have great conversation around a lot of different topics and get, everybody's input. It's important.
Yeah, because some of us don't play golf. Just saying.
Right.
Just saying. One of my first golf experiences, because I'd never been golfing before. I was a young lad, early 20s. We did a golf outing for work related, and I didn't know because I'd never been on a golf course before. I thought I did my due diligence. I went to the driving range and hit a couple bucket of balls so I wouldn't look like an idiot, right? So we get to this golf course. You'll get a kick out of this. And this is like the last time I've ever been golfing, so it just shows you how often I golf. So we all got our little golf carts. We go to the first tee, and everybody knows that I'm the new guy. And they said, "You go ahead and hit first, and then we'll let you play through, and then we'll come up behind you." I said, "Okay." So I hit the ball. I take the cart. I drive down to where the ball is. Hit it again. Did make it to the green. Drive the cart again. Hit it again. Laid it on the green. I drove the cart up on the green, parked right next to the hole, and then putted it in. And they were like, "Does he know not to drive the golf cart on the green?" It's like, no, he doesn't. Oops.
That would be me.
Oops. Yeah. So there's no arguing that you've been very successful in this industry. I mean, nobody could argue with that. Just looking at your LinkedIn profile and your accomplishments and stuff like that. So what core skills do you believe has helped you in this industry?
I've been very fortunate, very blessed to have met a lot of people that I've been able to stay in touch with through my various companies that I've worked with, and people in different functions. And I think that being somebody that people can count on is most important. Reaching out first and often and communicating with people is really important. People that I worked with 20 years ago, I still in many ways can work with them still today in the role that I'm in. If nothing but to give them a call and say, "Hey, I'd like to hear how you're doing and what's going on, with your life and in your area of business today." Learning from these folks that you built these relationships with, and staying in touch. Always communicate, over communicate. It's really good to network. Early on in my career, I really didn't know a lot about networking. We didn't hear networking until way after college, but networking is huge in this industry and huge in life, to be able to make those connections and to stay in touch with folks. And people want to do business with people they like, but they also want to network with people, and people that they have things in common, or people that they can learn from. Just all sorts of interesting things with networking. But be curious, be a project leader. Set large goals, but have realistic expectations. Those are some skills that I have found that have helped me in the industry, and always be someone that wants to learn. I think an education, being trained, taking on that curiosity to want to learn the next new thing, or the next thing that, is important in your industry or in your role, is super important.
Yeah, and there may be a few people listening to this show who are technicians and project foremen and stuff who may not understand what networking means. But when they hear the word networking, they might think, a network like a computer network. Networking means getting around like-minded peers within your industry,
Right.
and getting to know them above and beyond their professional thing, like you and I have.
Mm-hmm.
So and I just wish I'd learned that a lot
Me
earlier
too.
than I did in my career. In fact, I did an episode on networking and how to read people and start conversations not too long ago. And I wish I'd learned that a long, long time ago. But the thing I liked the most about what you said was be curious.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. And I would couple with that, don't be afraid to ask a stupid question.
Yes.
Right? Because a lot of times we'll be in a meeting with other people whom we perceive are smarter than us. And by the way, you should always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. That's been one of my rules of life, right? And so sometimes we get stuck in that, we're afraid to ask a question because everybody will think I'm stupid. Most people aren't going to think that. Most people are going to think, oh, I need to help this person get up to the level that they want to get up to. So, and I guarantee you that if you've been thinking that question, if you're in a large enough room, somebody else in that room has also thought of that very same question.
Without a doubt.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, don't ever be afraid to ask questions. I mean, that's to always be curious. I love that. I absolutely love it. I might steal that. Let's talk a little bit about work-life balance. And this is one of those key areas that I always try to focus in on with successful people. And the reason I do that is because, unfortunately, I feel that I have not been the greatest at this. I've always been super work-oriented to the point where I think that I missed too many softball games or cheerleader practices, or I just, now that I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that I missed a lot of the stuff because I was out of town on a project trying to get something done or whatever, right? So work-life balance is one of those critical issues. How do you manage your work-life balances, especially when the stakes are so high in our industry?
That can be very tricky, but I think more and more we're realizing that it's critical for our success. We have all these elements of work-life balance. We need, our sleep. We need, mental rests. We need physical rest and exercise to be at our best. We need all these types of rest, social rest. So for myself, prioritizing my health and the health of my family and my relationships, is super, super important. It's not something that I've always done well, but it's something that I've learned over time to try to build in that time on your calendar when you have to unplug, right? We have so many people in our industry and in the U.S. that don't take vacations. They lose vacation time. Please, please, if there's one thing I could tell you, you need time to unplug so that you can be your best self when you go back to your office. Take the time that you're given to do something that you enjoy outside of work, a hobby, reading, whatever it might be. But prioritizing your health to make sure for the long haul, and, young women who are just starting their families and, young families all the way through to retirement and beyond, you need to prioritize your health because that is something that we take for granted until we don't have it. And then, you have to prioritize your relationships. The people that are special and important to you, make sure that they know that and spend time. It takes time together to build those. So, build in that time that you need, unplug when you can, and it'll be a refresh. It'll be a reset for you to go back more energized, and you can do even more when you are at work.
Oh, I got great advice right there. I would tack on to that. If you're a leader or a manager of people, promote that.
Mm-hmm.
be tolerant of that. Be tolerant to realize that some people might just need what do we call that when we're taking a sick day, but it's not a mental health day.
Right.
They just might need a mental health day to unplug, especially in our industry because we do move at a fast pace and it absolutely can be stressful. So as a leader or manager, if you're listening, you absolutely promote it and make sure that somebody doesn't feel like they feel bad if they have to take a mental health day because sometimes we do.
We
We
absolutely
just
do.
do, right?
I agree.
Yeah. Let's shift the conversation. Talk about some inclusion and diversity. Right. One of the things I love about our industry is it's getting better and better at this. Right. I mean, we're getting again. It's a male-dominated industry. Still, a lot of majority of males. Unfortunately, a lot of. I got interviewed on a podcast recently, and they said we're stale, we're pale, and we're male. It's like that's just a way of saying old white guy, right? I was like, you're right, because when you go to any Bixie conference, you'll see it. You'll absolutely see it. But being a veteran of going to Bixie conferences for over 20 years, I am seeing a shift, and I love that shift because we talked about that earlier. We are some of all of our parts, and if all of our parts are different, we're just going to be better, right? So, what steps do you think the industry should take to make this industry more attractive to women or people who are underrepresented?
I think we need to be intentional about actively recruiting women and minorities and underrepresented groups. The organizations that we're a part of, HR groups that are out in college career fairs. We need to promote it as an exciting field of technology to be in, right? Our industry is changing and it's exciting and there's new things coming at us all the time. Even look outside of engineering. Engineering is a huge part of what we do as a business and an industry, but there's so many ways to get into the industry outside of engineering. Then you can come on board and find out, well, engineering may be the path that you want to take or it may not. Project managers, leading project business. There's so many avenues to get into the information field. So we definitely need to actively recruit, but then also visibly demonstrate and model inclusive behaviors for this group so they know, hey, we want to be a part of this industry because they're welcoming. We need to be welcoming, and we need to ensure diverse leadership representation. So if it's coming from our leaders and it's coming from our CEOs and our project leaders and our managers, and it goes from the top down, obviously people are going to hear about it, and folks are going to want to be a part of these organizations and our industry.
My wife works for a company called Life Labs Learning, and they're a management training company. Although they don't call themselves a management training company, but that's what they do. And they think outside the box, and that's one of the things they talk about is modeling behavior. And it's we know that we inherently know that as parents because we know that when you got a young kid who's 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, well, actually even older than that, but you act the way you want your child to act because your child is going to see you're doing stuff. You don't want your child to smoke, then don't smoke cigarettes. That's not going to necessarily stop them from doing, but the chances are less, right? So modeling is a big thing, right? So, yeah. So our industry is moving at the speed of light. And that's not a pun. That's the actual truth, right? Sometimes it's hard to keep up with our industry. It truly is. Where do you see our industry going in the next 5 to 10 years? And on top of that, what roles do you think women will play in that future?
Well, you're absolutely right. We're seeing an explosion of artificial intelligence and more IoT devices. We're seeing an explosion of next level communications, 5G, and so much that's going to be hitting, that's already hit, and there's going to be layers and levels of how intense and how this is going to progress in the next 5 to 10 years. We'll probably be floored looking back in that time and beyond. But I think women wear so many hats. We're really good at multitasking from all the different roles and responsibilities we have. And I think women play a future in the part that, we can come on board and lead projects and multitask and be a part of something that needs that next level of detail and understanding. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, but I think overall women are great at multitasking and being able to take on a project or a leadership position and be empathetic, but also be driven by the goals that the organization sets and by the goals that they have set for their positions and their jobs. So, I would encourage women to really jump in this industry, because there is so much change and excitement going on. Don't be afraid of the change and all the things that are happening. Embrace it. I think, it's part of that being curious, right? I'm about to jump into this challenge about all these wiring devices and connected devices. And this is going to be, something that I'm looking forward to, this new challenge that I have. And I encourage other women to do the same.
Very cool. And that, one of the reasons I started the whole podcast was to inspire the next generation. And I picked that up from a Bixie conference. I told that story many times on the show, right? What advice would you offer somebody, a young lady getting in this industry?
I think, don't be timid. Jump in. Be confident about who you are and what you can do and what you can bring. Set out to make a difference in your role with the company. Set a plan and go for it, and be vocal. Talk to folks about your vision for your future and make things happen. I'm a firm believer in mentally visualizing things. I have a vision board that I try to keep up and look at and make sure that I'm working toward those goals. So make sure that and I didn't do this early in my career. I wasn't as vocal as I am now about the things I want to do, the things I want to learn, and where I want to go. And I think it's okay to verbalize that with your your managers, the company, and talk to people and say, hey, I'm really interested in XYZ and I'd like to learn more about this. Is there a way that you can connect me with some folks and I can take on a side project, or I'd like to learn about this so that maybe one day I could go into supply chain or whatever it might be, whatever role it might be in the industry. Just be vocal and, don't be timid. Jump in and make a difference.
Vision board. I'm not sure I know what that is.
It's something I heard about, oh gosh, it's probably about 20 years ago. And it's a visual representation of things you want in your life, whether it's personal, career, anything that you want to learn, to do, to aspire to be. So it's and you can do anything from cutting out, old days of cutting out magazines and putting it on a board to, I just took a Word document and pulled in images from, print screens of things that I want to do,
Okay.
things like that.
So
Yeah,
it's not a literal board on your wall, although it could be.
Yeah, I printed it out before.
Right. So maybe something like Pinterest, maybe,
Yeah.
where a lot of people.
Pinterest is a software version of could be very much a software version of a vision board.
Huh.
But yeah, I just took a Word document and cut in, some things that I'm striving to do, right? I have a goal to learn conversational Spanish in the next 5 years, right?
Oh, that's cool.
Yep,
That's cool.
that's been one of my goals for a long time. And so, how am I actively working toward that goal? Right now I'm in the software Duolingo. I'm 100+ days on Duolingo every day. I try to go in and learn something new on there, using the different software packages that are out there and are available to me for free. I've taken a class in Spanish, but whatever your goals are, and whatever you want to do, put it on that board and you can pull it up from time to time. You can print it out and put it in front of you and then ask yourself, what am I doing to make sure that these goals that I have in front of me, what am I doing to get there?
I need to do a show on that. I'll have to do some research on vision boards. That sounds really,
I did
really
a couple
cool.
of presentations on it. I can send you my work.
Or better yet, I could have you on as a guest to talk about vision boards.
Absolutely.
There you go. Future content. There it is. See, that people always ask, how do I come up with content ideas? I come up with it from talking to people.
That's right.
Right? I would have never in a million years thought, hey, I need to do an episode on vision boards because, I have a vision board, but it's in here. And because I got so much stuff going on in there between, all my things I got going on, sometimes things get lost or forgotten about. And that's where a vision board will come into play, because you can periodically, whatever, daily, weekly, monthly, just kind of go back and look at it. So, I focused, I wanted to do something on that. So watch out for future content on a future show on vision boards, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. What do you wish somebody told you when you were first starting out in this industry?
I wish someone had told me that I was the only person who knows where I want to go. That I definitely need to be more vocal, as I mentioned earlier. I'm the only one that has the plan of where I want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And, what am I going to do to make that happen for myself? We all grew up hearing, oh, just, do the hard work and you'll be promoted, sit back, do the work. And, yes, that happens. But you have to be intentional a lot of times nowadays. You have to be, involved in different things, make yourself known, network. Again, networking is huge. It's important. I'm a part of a couple of organizations within my company, WAVE, Women Adding Value at Eaton. It's our inclusion and diversity group. So, being a leader in my area with WAVE has really offered me a lot of opportunities to meet people that I would have never met before. And had the opportunity to speak in front of different groups and organize events and things. Toastmasters, I'm a part of a Toastmasters group, right? And, just putting yourself out there. I wish someone had told me to just be more vocal and put myself out there a little bit more.
That's great advice. Great advice. Last question. This one, you weren't, I didn't prep you for this one. What's new at Eaton?
Oh, we've got so much going on, Chuck. Oh, it's great. We're going to be at Bixie next week. So anyone,
I wish I was going.
I know I'm not going to be there as well. I'm going to be doing some train the trainer next week for my new role, but we're going to have about 10 folks at the booth. And I'll do a shameless plug, booth 1913. If you're going to Bixie, stop by. So we've got PDUs, a new universal rack input PDU that is really an incredible product. We're doing a lot around cybersecurity. I know that's a really important topic for a lot of folks, and the whole world right now, to make sure that we have cybersecurity locked down. Eaton is an incredible company. It's a 100-year-old company, and we're putting so much money into digitalization and cybersecurity and new connected products, all the time. So we've got a new lithium-ion UPS that just came out. So, we're always innovating and putting out new products. And, I'm really proud of the company that I work for. We make some incredible products. A lot of people know us for our, the electrical division, the circuit breakers and all those things, and the wiring devices. But then, the critical power piece, UPSs, PDUs, our remote management software called Bright Layer Data Center Suites. That is a game changer for us. Having that connected remote management and all the data and analytics behind it, that's where our industry's going. You can't roll a truck, effectively to all these places when you get alarms when things go down. How do you do it, and how did we need to do it during COVID? You have remote capabilities. You have people that, get alarms on your phone, alarms at your desk, and then you can do it remotely. So that's really where the industry's going, and Eaton has got a great product for that.
Excellent. Great catching up with you. Great having you on this show.
Thank you so much, Chuck. It's always good to see you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk to you.
So I hope you enjoyed this series on industry icons. And like I said, while Penny may not have the 2, 4, 5 decades that many of us might have, she has made a huge impact in this industry. If you know of somebody whom I should highlight as an industry icon, get in touch with me. Let me know. I'll get them on the show. Until next time, knowledge is power.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.